Welcome to the Renaissance Woodworker. I'm Shannon Rogers, your host. This is my shop update for April 21st, 2017. I finally got new lights in my shop. Brand new track lighting installed with smart light bulbs in every single one. Which, you know what that means? It means that now is the time on Sprockets when we dance. Oh yeah. Yeah. Exactly what you need in a wood shop, right? Flashing, colored, strobe lights. It's gotta be safe. What could go wrong? Okay, enough of that. Seriously, lots of light everywhere I need it. And the pendants that I used are positionable. So if I need a little bit more light in one area, it's just a matter of rotating a pendant around and throwing a little bit more light over there. Now, my shop is part wood shop, but also part film studio. So there was a lot of the reason that I chose the smart bulbs so that I can dim and throw light in different spots in the shop where I need it for different shots that I need to take. But there's also something very cool about being able to dial in work zones within my shop. Program it into my smartphone, or I've also got a multifunction switch on the wall to allow me to throw light exactly where I need it and maybe not where I don't need it. This is kind of a personal working style of mine. We actually got into this in Wood Talk this week. I actually like to turn the lights down when I'm working and really focus on task lighting. Not only can I see how my plane is working on the board or preparing a board for finish better with raking light and task lights, but it just provides a certain ambiance that I enjoy working in. Maybe I've got a whole bunch of sharpening ahead of me. I hit the sharpening station button. All the lights go out except for 3 pendants, and actually this one is multi-positional. I can shine it right down on top of my stones. I've got a pendant right over here bringing in task light and another pendant bringing more task light just onto my sharpening station. Or I'll step out of the glow of the sharpening station and perhaps I want to do some really specific joinery work at my joinery bench. Well, I use that a lot, and I've actually got it pre-programmed into a switch on the wall which turns off all the other shop lights and focuses all my light back here on my joinery bench. And now I've got task lights on the wall, I've got a pendant there, and there. And if necessary, I can turn on even more lights to shine even more light where I need it. Or say I'm just doing general work on the workbench and I want good overhead task lighting for my workbench. I'll switch to the Roubeau and I get perfect light exactly where I need it. Again, can be positionable. I can turn things down and get it right down on top of the bench. Give me all the light I need for working right here on my bench with no shadows, no matter where I am. Or maybe I'll move into a little bit more neglected part of my shop, the lathe area. And immediately, lights come on, give me all the light that I need. And you can't really see it out of frame, but I've got track that runs all the way along the ceiling and all the way here under the garage door. Now, unfortunately, I can't hang a pendant down and still be able to open my garage door, but I could very easily grab one of these, come over here and shine light directly down on top of my bench. Now the color is off here. I've got to change the color, which I can do very easily. Now I've got daylight color again coming down onto my lathe. I could put as many lights as I want over here just that quick. And that's one of the reasons I went with track lighting, is being able to position it around as much as possible. Now, there's a typical workshop when you're not doing filming and stuff like I am, you might just want to have every single light on in the shop. And I actually have that programmed here where I hit a single button and every single pendant light in the shop comes on all at once. And that may be where I do a lot of my work. In the end, this is entirely unnecessary for the majority of wood shops, but it adds a little fun and geekery to my shop that I've been pretty excited to implement. Only took a couple of afternoons to hang all the track. The biggest part, frankly, was the investment in the lights, and I've been kind of picking them up slowly over the course of a year because they get expensive. Pendants themselves are only about 10 bucks, but the bulbs can run you 30 bucks a piece. Some of them that have like all the colors in them can run 50 bucks a piece. So I don't have very many of those. I might add some more over the coming months, but more than likely I won't be adding the colored lights because frankly all I'm using is the daylight and then maybe some of the 3000, 4000 Kelvin color range. But whether you use smart bulbs or not, I really like the track lighting idea. the ability to reposition lights where I need them and constantly have good task lighting is so important in a hand tool shop. Now I got a question this week from Mike. He was paying attention to my Instagram feed and he saw that I was installing some moldings on this blanket chest. And he had a question about how I go about attaching them. I think he said something like, surely you're not putting nails through all that hard work that you already did. The contrary, I am actually using nails, but you'll never see them. And I want to show you how I go about nailing a molding in place so that the nails just disappear. I've got a scrap board here and a little scrap of an astragal molding that I created. And this would be a good waist molding or kind of plinth molding here. And it has a bead on top, coves flanking it, and a couple of fillets that separate that. Well, anytime you want to nail a molding in place, you want to aim to stick the nails into those fillets. They're inside corners in these fillets that once the nail is sunk, it just disappears into the shadows. More importantly, you want to think about the line of sight for this particular molding. Let me drive a couple of nails in here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. First things first, I need to pre-drill because I'm using cut nails and they can wedge things apart. So a pilot hole is a good idea. I will use a drill bit that is equal to the thickness of the nail about 1/3 of the way up from the bottom. I'm also going to drill to a depth of about 2/3 the length of the nail. Make sure this board doesn't walk on me. And I'm going to drill right into this inside fillet down here. And I want to essentially aim that drill bit into that inside corner. Drill till I hit my depth. I'll even go so far as to kind of angle it into the corner. Now I'll take my cut nail and line up the wedging action parallel to the grain here so that it won't split the molding as I drive it in. And you can see with the right pilot hole, it goes in and it sinks to about 1/3 of the way up and I get a nice firm fit there. Now I'll drive these in. I'll grab a nail set. I have a nail set that I've actually filed into a square shape. These usually come round. And I'll sink it just below the surface. There we go. So, obviously that's relatively visible, but you can see the nails disappear into that fillet, and with maybe a little bit of shadow, they disappear even more. I could use some wood putty there, but I find that even the wood putty that says you can stain it and it takes finish and everything, it just ends up looking more obvious. So let's examine the sight lines on this. This particular molding can be seen on this blanket chest right here. It's the waist molding. So if this were our case side, the waist molding. And we're set up here on top of the workbench, so it's, you know, a good 34 inches off the ground. Normally, this would be down on the ground and we're going to be looking down on it. So we're only going to see the top of this molding. Well, guess what? Those nails, they're in the fillet underneath. The only way I could see those nails is to get way down here on the floor. Maybe put your head right on the floor and crane it and look up underneath and you'll see those nails. From here, there are no nails visible anywhere. The line of sight does all the work I need to do to hide those nails. Let me show you another example, the plinth molding that I've got here. I don't have a fillet underneath. I don't have a molding blocking it. The fillet is front and center. But again, the line of sight rescues me. So here's the plinth molding I'm talking about, and there's the fillet that you can see is certainly not covered up. And as I look, yep, there's the nail that I sunk there. But as I'm laying down here on the floor, 6 inches off the floor, looking straight in, that nail is currently very visible. As I step back and adjust my line of sight, like looking down on it like I normally would, Where'd that nail go? Completely disappeared. If I stand in front of it, it's even less visible right there. The line of sight completely hides that and causes it to disappear into the inside corner of that fillet. And a fillet, in molding terms, is known as punctuation. It breaks up the curves. In this case, it breaks up the cove from the bead, and it creates a nice shadow line there, which again, the shadows hide the nails. So if I come back down here, ta-da, there's the nail. Just changing the line of sight completely hides that nail from view. Now another thing, the nails are really just the clamps. I've applied glue to the back of these moldings because we're talking about a long grain to long grain joint there. So really that's all I need to keep it nice and strong. But it's kind of difficult to clamp it in place without it slipping and sliding around. So those nails, just a couple of them in there, clamp it in place and allow the glue to dry. But there's plenty of historical examples where there was never glue used on the moldings and they were just nailed in place. Certainly you will find examples where it's really difficult to hide that molding, and that's where things like wood putty may come into play, or other creative clamping solutions where you don't have to use the nails. But 9 times out of 10, there's a way to hide that nail in the shadows. That's it for me this week, folks. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week.